What's behind that door?
Copy that. Falling in.
A bomb? Maybe a gunman? Does he have body armor? Do you really want to take this guy on? Could he shoot through the door?
Oh!
What if you use your flashbang? What if the flashbang gets both of you? What if?
But the circumstances that SWAT officers have to see in their line of work are very grisly and fucked up. If the goal of the game is to make it as realistic as possible, it is not possible to make it clean.
Now, on one hand, we do have people saying let artists make their art, but on the other and more dominant hand in this narrative, people yelling that it's insensitive, too soon, or too mature for video games.
Game loses publisher days after devs remind fans about a parent school shooting level. Is an unsettling SWAT fantasy thrill.
That is the most insulting thing I have heard on this council floor.
Crawl towards me! Crawl towards me! Don't go!
Do any of you people know who Charles Whitman was?
Sir, he was that guy who shot all those people from that tower in Austin, Texas, sir!
From the observation room, 26 floors up, a killer terrified students and others on the campus of Texas University. He was Charles Whitman, 24, an ex-Marine, a dead shot.
On August 1st, 1966, a shooting would take place that would shock America to its core. On the roof of a Texas University clock tower, a disgruntled Marine would shoot over 45 people in a massacre, killing 14 and wounding 31. But two officers by the names of Ramiro Martinez and Houston McCoy would take the fight to him and shoot him, ending the massacre. With this began a question by law enforcement. What if we get guys like Martinez and McCoy to go and deal situations that regular officers cannot deal with? Around this time, Philadelphia would have a spring of bank robberies that normal officers couldn't deal with because they were under-equipped for the situations at hand. The LAPD was dealing with the Watts riots, which was the response to the beating of a black speeder. Within a tragedy, a career would begin. The man's name? Daryl A. Gates. Daryl A. Gates would take this idea and say, hey, why don't we do that but with everything? And he even made up a name for it, dubbed the Special Weapons Attack Team. I guess it was too mean or something because they changed it to Special Weapons and Tactics. Guess what? With this new idea, they would officially use them in their first mission. SWAT would raid a Black Panther hideout. It would be a logistical nightmare. SWAT would enter the building on illegal gun charges at 5:30 in the morning. In the account of the former Black Panthers, the SWAT team entered through a hallway. Panthers fired submachine guns and shotguns down this hallway, wounding 6 officers. In the end, though, and after thousands of rounds of ammunition, 4 Panthers were wounded, so they gave up. 6 Panthers would be arrested but acquitted of all charges, since the judge said that they were simply defending themselves from an unannounced intruder. SWAT in modern times responds to mainly hostage situations, raids, mass shootings, or how the Burbank SWAT states it, preservation of life and property during critical incidents and high-risk operations. They deal with the worst of the worst. And in many people's eyes, they're heroes. But a large number of people now call into question the, quote, militarization of police. I'm not here to discuss that today. I'm going to leave 2 links in the description. One to a video, another to an article. If you're interested in that, go there.
So, Kotaku has put out an article regarding the whole Team City Team and Void Interactive split situation, and I'm getting a bunch of DMs asking about this. I made a link to the second channel. Here we are. You guys like the video? Like it, subscribe for Ready or Not content. So, Kotaku put this article out yesterday on Ready or Not, and Gates loses publisher. Fantasy devs remind fans about we're gonna go through it all. You guys like the video? Ready or Not devs.
If you're coming into this video with any context as to knowing about any controversy related to Ready or Not, Don't listen to it. I feel as if the guys who make these videos are on the same level as Kotaku. When I was way younger, I had a friend whose family had just bought a new computer. It could run all the new games. He would sit there and chill, and he'd watch me play a lot of these video games, which at the time I didn't know, but it would change my childhood. Out of all the games that he showed me, one in particular stood out. SWAT 4. Even then, it looked retro. But at the time that I played it, I absolutely adored it, as many other players did. At the time, I didn't have perspective on what a no-knock raid was, or the ramifications of my actions to the people I shot. I didn't think that these people could receive help and they needed to be shot. They shot first, I said, and they were holding hostages and selling drugs. The justification for murder that I had is trivial. The person you shot had a mom and dad, maybe a wife, kids. What drew him to a life of crime and to shoot you in his final moments? Was it the fear of prison? Was it the fear of maybe not being able to come economically back from jail? I know that's a deep subject for SWAT 4, but just stay with me, you'll see what I'm talking about later. Recently, I bought a computer. I spent $100 on just starting games alone. One that I knew that I needed to try was Ready or Not. I had seen trailers and gameplay, and it wasn't on a weird website like Tarkov. It was on Steam. Playing it for the first time, it instantly gave me SWAT 4 vibes. I readied up with my squad, I ordered them to breach my first door, peeked, and I died. Pretty good in my book. Many describe Ready or Not as a mortal enemy to the modern Rainbow Six Siege. A slow, realistic look at SWAT rather than a game that started as such, but then morphed into a fast-paced, COD-like shooter. Here are my gameplay problems with it. Progression is a big part of video games. The fact that you can do good and gain from what you've done. Ready or Not does not have that. Instantly unlock everything. While sure, realistic, it allows for people to just start it as OP. And many other games have some sort of progression system. A good example being Hell Let Loose. You get better stuff as you start to play the game more and more. Sure, it may not make you OP, but it still gives you something to do. But as they've talked about multiplayer, they're going to need to change that. Because here's the thing. Everyone would be kitted out in the same sort of stuff, the same heavy armor, and not be able to learn from their mistakes. Example, Meth House. The suspects are not that kitted out. No vests, no nothing. Pull up with a scar, or MK16 if you're a degenerate, and...
See you guys.
Allahu Akbar! Another problem that the developers have spoken about, AI placement. A reoccurring problem for both SWAT 4 and Ready or Not's new maps. Let me give you an example. Full Health House. Always at least one guy in the first room. Most of the time you could take him out through the window. The bathroom most of the time is clear, but check just in case. Sex room always has at least one. The third room down the hallway normally has one guy, most of the time right behind the TV. Once you go into the stairs room, always check down there. Sometimes there's a guy that hides under the tables down there. You see my point. When the enemies aren't randomized enough, you get used to the maps, meaning it becomes very trivial to just do it over and over again. Now for my next tripwires. God damn tripwires. They almost create this two-faced version of you. When you're not dealing with tripwires, you're on your happy side. And why is he smiling? Why did he just... Once you get to the angry side, you want to kill 4 people in Arizona. Like, tripwires in this game, they make me so mad that I want to go outside and commit acts of terrorism against senators, like the bad guys in the map. Some are very easy to spot, and if you use your camera correctly, you can spot and move away from them. But sometimes they're just invisible.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So you're done with that match. You've just won. You're checking for that last civvy. Then...
I'm about to blow.
Fuck. Now the next one, they may be working on right now. A big part of Rainbow Six is destruction. The fact that walls and stuff like that explode. Small things explode too, like bottles, and general decorations in the map. It adds a bit of character while shooting. Don't get me wrong, Ready or Not's definitely going in this direction. For example, in the strip club map, there is a section where you can shoot out the windows. But that's a very, very small section with sometimes 1 or 2 bad guys. Even then, it's still just very small. It's the small things in video games, like when you shoot a phone and it stops going off, or bottles breaking, or being able to destroy walls. They add more character to games. Sort of like that era of video games where they just added small details purely to try it out and so you could find it. So, if any of Void's developers are watching right now, first off, go outside and take a shower. You smell really bad. Second off, try and take all my listed points and actually use them, because I feel like they're good ideas, but you know, up to you to decide. Last but not least is an idea for more character to maps. A big part of SWAT 4 was subtle storytelling compiled with a map description showing floor plans and telling you about the criminals. Like my personal favorite map, Fairfax Residence.
Get ready, men. This is a tough one. Our target, Lawrence Fairfax, is the #1 suspect in a string of grisly homicides.
The basic story is a serial killer is living with his mom. He has 2 or 3 women locked up in his house. We are unsure where they are, but they're in there. He lives with his mom, who believes that he is just mentally ill and will defend her boy with all of her heart. Well, of course, he has been kidnapping and murdering women in the basement. Before you start this mission, there's a wall of text telling you that story, which adds a lot of context. You know that the mom might be there. You know his story, how they caught him using DNA, his workplace, how his coworkers feel about him. And last, to make sure to watch out for his basement areas. Ready or Not gets maybe 3 sentences for its descriptions, and no map to look at beforehand. I guess you could say that the SWAT team didn't have enough time, but for SWAT 4 they got it pretty quick. So I don't know. But definitely telling us more would help add to that subtle storytelling Ready or Not is trying to improve on. Let me stop being negative for a little bit, because this game is good. Let me go over all of the positive things that I think about while playing this game. The atmosphere of this game. Oh my goodness. It's dark, gritty, and golden. Something about the idea of a dirty version of LA that has a terrible crime rate that you, yes, you, have to deal with. There's terrorists, pedophiles, and meth heads, oh my. It's a grim reality but realistic to a point. The movement is slow and methodical. If you move too quickly, you can get quickscoped by a red-blooded American.
Down on your knees.
New element. Objectives failed.
And the aesthetic, unlike most other tactical shooters, is very much based in horror. A few months ago, I had a whole script about Come and See, which is a war film directed in Belarus. Instead of being a general action war film, it's a horror film. I could understand how SWAT goes through this sort of horror every single day. Don't know who's behind that door or around that corner. I've had genuine jump scares out of this game. Beyond the aesthetic, the shooting is super good. It feels powerful and the recoil isn't too crazy. And one of the biggest highlights for me is the sound design. I would give my left nut for some good sound design in video games. I don't know why, but soundtrack and sound design is always a highlight for me. Hell Let Loose's sound design for explosions and shooting is the only reason I'm still playing. Ready or Not's sound design is super good. I mean, all the suspects talking and essentially trash talking, and the officers' voices are super good in contrast with the frightened civilians. When they insult you for putting the handcuffs on too tight, it adds to that level of anxiety and suspense that the game revels in. But not just that. The explosions, the shooting, the ambience of the lights while walking around. Brisa Cove is a very good example. In the background, there's a news station that's talking about the situation, and the suspects in the maps have their voice lines to be very military-like as they are veterans.
Contact! Fucking Patsy. Doing your duty isn't an excuse. Should have joined our side. Whose pocket you in, you fucking Patsy? The civilians were collateral damage. This ain't worth shit. You know that. You'll let the media paint this how they want, huh? You do anything they say for a pension.
The club music throwing your team coordination off is very realistic. Everything about the sound design is perfect. The music is somewhat annoying because they only have the same 3 or 4 tracks. While not bad, it gets annoying to have to listen to the same songs over and over again. Earlier, I did complain about the map's story not having much depth other than 3 sentences, but I feel with the 3 new maps, they are going in the right direction. For a viewer who doesn't know what subtle storytelling is, let me quickly explain it. Picture a suburban house. The outside is slowly becoming unhinged. The grass is dead and the trees have no leaves. Once you walk into the house, there's creaking on every floorboard. The furniture is covered in rags, and on the walls there's all similar portraits of a lady. It's a gray and old house, and it seems like no one's lived there for a while. Then you hear noises from upstairs, but no one is there. What is happening? Well, using your subtle storytelling skills, you can most likely ascertain that this house is, in fact, haunted. Ready or Not does this pretty well. The subtle storytelling in these maps are a bullet point for everyone who praises this game. Let's go over each.
A group of unfunded veterans holding out on a Skyrise apartment after trying to kill a senator who is voting on a bill to cut the funding of veterans, as outlined in the background TV.
The LSPD cybercrime is just taking down Hey, you want me to say this, bro? No. Oh, okay. The man Amos Vol is a pornography maker. His daughter is having a birthday that day. He's hired a local security group to defend his home.
In Yemen, U.S. airstrikes have ravaged a rebel group. The group's name, The Hand. In response, the terrorist group goes to shoot up a nightclub called The Neon as to stop the U.S. airstrike.
Vol is probably the best example of what subtle storytelling is about. The lower you're going to the house, the more unhinged it gets. The details of a Daniel Schneider type thing and alcohol and condoms everywhere, plus the notes about the simple things, all adds to a greater story. As for the older maps, they are very detailed and some are story-driven, but they aren't as in-depth as the newer ones. They tell a story, but not like the others. With all the new additions, you will see that the game is going to kill it with these new maps. They already have so many that look super good on their roadmap. I'm personally excited for their Ted K map or Ridgeline. It seems super interesting, but in subtle storytelling department, that's the direction that they need to go. Disclaimer before I start this part. Some of this is very much up in the air. Void doesn't have a Our Story part on their website or any videos that are related to it. Some of these are from watching other people's videos, and some of them I've just heard through the grapevine through people on Discord. I will address the facts as I see them, and I will mention where some of this information comes from, if I can. Okay, Klinger and Post. I learned that the devs are based in like 2 countries. I can't figure out where, but one of the websites says that they're Irish, which explains a lot. I drove my Saracen through your garden. And also in New Zealand. I don't know why there's contradicting information. I'm assuming that they're in different... It doesn't matter. For this first part, it's very unknown or listed anywhere, but one of these YouTube videos that I watched, they make the claim that Void started out by making mods for SWAT 4. Is this true? I don't know. It sounds plausible. It's not listed anywhere else, but a forum post by a guy saying that he's leaving SWAT 4 to develop Ready or Not. Ready or Not began as a passion project based off of SWAT 4 and all the old Rainbow games. The developers have stated in a Dextaro interview,
"Our founding team didn't really feel the genre tactical police shooter was well represented on the market and hadn't been for a while.
They would go ahead with this idea, a hardcore tactical shooter with many horror elements. Game's development started with how many others start, getting YouTubers to play their game in 2020, the biggest one being the Russian Badger.
You have a good eye on the cringe, over.
Officer based, bro. Based on what?
Now, this multiplayer did not live up to people's hopes. It was incredibly glitchy, and felt like another Call of Duty knockoff, which Void really didn't want. Now, this is very appealing to many people, including myself, going against this Call of Duty direction. They would remove the multiplayer PvP feature, and their main focus for now would be on PvE. With the successes they were achieving, they needed a publisher. The perfect one? Team 17. They had published games like Overcooked, Overcooked 2, The Escapist 2, and hell let loose. What is this game library? But yeah, Team 17 was going to publish Ready or Not. Good, but somewhat bad. To sum down what a publisher is, it's someone that invests in a game and they have a certain amount of things that they want and need to continue investment, meaning that there were deadlines now. Now, normally the story would end there, but controversies, bloody controversies, would plague the rest of the story. Void Interactive. I've heard that you guys are controversial. I'm gonna go over each of them to see if you deserve to be taken off the market, using my amazing detective skills of being able to Google stuff. Case 1. The loss of your publisher. December 20th, 2021. Team 17 dropped you guys, right? Must have been disappointing. They were, after all, giving you money. Kotaku has the answer. A post on Reddit where a developer confirmed the existence of a school shooting map. Holy cow, that's insensitive. Of course that would be the reason. Except it seems it isn't. Although the idea of a school shooting map is somewhat insensitive, the game is going for realism. Plus, you're stopping the shooter, not assisting him. The real reason hasn't been fully developed yet. Through the grapevine, some people have pointed out that Void was going to split anyway, but to this day, no one knows. It definitely wasn't related to the school shooting map. Case 2. The cereal box. Plus, Kotaku article labeling you dystopian. January 6, 2022. It's ironic that they made that article on that day. Kotaku has just released an article labeling the game dystopian and a SWAT fantasy. They also talk about in a trash can, there's a bunch of boxes saying boner health, anal staircase, and horror foods, plus Pepe memes. Most of these are just riffs off of different companies. Horror Foods being Whole Foods, and I mean Pepe memes, they're basically dead at this point, and most of them stay on Twitch with like feels good man, feels bad man. So I don't get it, but okay. The only ones that can be somewhat interpreted as maybe a bit on the nose is the statements of Red Pill, and I'm not gonna say that word because 4chan wants to make it a racial thing. They created that word after the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. Quick story on that. He was jogging and went to a buying of a house where they were constructing it, and came out and he was shot to death by 2 old white guys. But 4chan wanted joggers to be considered hate speech, just to prove a point. Other than those points, the rest of the article is literally the meaning of how could you type so much yet mean so little. Void reacted by tweeting that the red pill was a reference to Neo in the Matrix, okay, and that word was a reference to brain puzzles, which is true. I'm gonna be honest here. I mean, they're okay responses, but they're just a bit corporate. I believe the Neo one, but that one is a bit on the nose. But it's okay. They removed it and apologized. But who knows? I'm gonna give them a pass for that one. Case 3. The game being taken down from Steam. Haha! Even Steam hates your guts. They removed your game for maybe a few hours.
I will hold up my hands. I was a bit stupid. This was pure ignorance. It wasn't intentional or anything like that. Basically, the long and short of it was, and again, I'm kind of clarifying this because Kotaku took the wrong stance on this as well. Yeah, we had the nightclub called Prism. It was way too close to an already existing nightclub franchise called Prism, but spelled different logos. I thought that would be fine. Clearly wasn't fine, and I can kind of see that now in hindsight. That was a little bit stupid. And yeah, we were super quick to react with that as well. Like, we obviously do not want to cause any friction with anyone, copyright or none. Like, it's not our intention to upset anyone. So straight away we were on that. We changed it all, and it was resolved within kind of 24 hours kind of thing.
I hardly even noticed it was gone. Like, it was fixed in a matter of seconds almost.
Shut up. The Last of Us 2 would change video game violence in my eyes. Something about the ways that the enemies plead with you, insult you, and vilify you, understandably for murdering their people. It's different than most video games using violence to sometimes enhance or progress their story. It makes me feel bad for the murders that I commit in game. It makes me feel like I should have done more to prevent the killings, and I should have had more options, but they happen. Unlike the infected killings, they're graphic, but they don't shout out and cry for their mom or ask you to spare them. They don't call out for their dead friends. And when you murder a dog's owner, It's sad. It shows violence in such a way that makes it feel sick to have to kill these people. But watching other people's gameplay, it makes me feel sick. They murder these people viciously and without care. Ellie swears at them. It feels tasteless. Like an MLG kill cam for a Predator drone strike.
Keep these guys off of me! Tango down.
Kinda tasteless. Video games in and of themselves give you an idea of what one thing might have been like. It's not what creates the violence. That's mental health, economic disparity. It's outside of music, movies, and video games. Violence in video games has been called into question time in and time out. Disclaimer, video games, as violent as they can be, are not catalysts for mass shootings in America. There's too much evidence against it. Psychologists agree overwhelmingly that it has nothing to do with mass shootings in the United States. But it does do something. It allows for people to almost put themselves in someone else's shoes, giving them an idea of what it might have felt like to kill someone. Not encouraging them, that's not at all what it's doing. People who tell you that video games cause mass shootings are not doing any research. Imagine for me, it's sort of perspective. Kotaku showing you this perspective of a terrible dystopian SWAT sim versus these YouTubers who only discuss drama, saying how the damn libs are ruining video games. And then Void just sitting there and trying to show off their game. People always say that any press is good press. But why isn't there more press about the game's sound design? I mean, they should win awards with this stuff. Why isn't there more videos about that? Why do I even have to talk about controversy? Well, because the perspective of the outside viewing glass is that this is just another controversial game. When looking this up on Google, one of the first things to show up is Ready or Not controversy. Why is it not Ready or Not review or Ready or Not gameplay? It's not about politics, it's a video game. It's a stupid game about SWAT. Why doesn't SWAT 4 have these same opinions? Why are people not Googling controversy for that? I mean, at surface level, Ready or Not and SWAT 4 are the same thing. The difference is that SWAT 4's developers knew that going for controversy first should not be the objective. It should be the gameplay. But what about another perspective from a totally different game? Clean House is a mission in the most recent Call of Duty. What does it show? A no-knock raid that goes very successful. You find terrorist documents at the cost of your own discretion. They're showing you one successful no-knock raid. Not all of them. The unsuccessful ones where the unknowing people are killed.
Dancing with friends. Girl, let me wipe your eyes. Everything on me, alright.
Breonna Taylor was murdered in her home in the middle of the night. The Louisville SWAT officers that went in after she was killed are quoted as saying,
"We just got the feeling that night that something really bad happened."
Does Clean House show this? No. As Jacob Geller said,
The game doesn't say all no-knock raids are effective, but it shows you one, and that one inarguably was.
perspective on the world is difficult to hold. Media sources telling you only one side of an argument. Google then using these opinions and recommending you things about the opinions that you already hold. People need to stop giving Kotaku and people who get mad at this game attention. That's how you win. Not by forum posts and YouTube videos blaming the left. What there needs to be is more reviews praising this game. There are maybe a few on YouTube, mixed in with funny moments videos. Who cares what Kotaku says? This game, for all intensive purposes, is good, and even Kotaku admits that. That should be the point made. The game is good. There is a saying for writers and directors around the world: know your audience. Ready or Not knows their audience. They know whenever there is a controversy that people will rally behind them, because most people that own the game are there to be outraged and for its realism. Just look at the reviews on Steam. As if people who are mad at this game are going to actively buy a $40 game. Realistically, this game's base is now based off of controversy, which is very disappointing to say the least. The game should be about the game, not about the outliers of said game. I do believe that the developers never wanted any controversy, but I do believe that they're indulging in it in a sense to get more audience attention. So I believe that they need to sit down and talk about their game rather than everything outside of it. Not what they hear, not what they taste, not what they feel. Perspective is what they see.
Roads around the building have been barricaded by police, and anyone within the radius has been ordered to remain indoors and away from windows. We'll have more on this developing story after the break.
Drop it down, you bulls!
Circles.
Nope.
Get on
I broke that one. Where'd that come from?
He's right here. He's safe.
TOC reporting. You failed your objective. Collect what you can. Report to TOC for debrief.
I was an employee. I just shot at a civvy.
Drop the weapon.
So yeah, that is probably my first actual like working on a video and feeling proud of it at the very end, which is strange for me. I know it's not Rec Room and that this video is like super long, like way too long, but you forgot the outro. Thank you. Special shout outs to Monkeyman, Lucasgapples, and everyone that is in the Sammy Club. You guys are awesome. They've all been reviewing this video as it sort of came out, and so, you know, them finally seeing it is nice. They all hate it, of course. If you have any problems with me using your clips, just DM me on Discord. It's always linked in my About section, and we'll talk about it. And also, I was in a podcast recently with Lucasgapples. I'm going to leave a link. It's going to be the top link in the description. Go watch it. Send him some support. Say how much you love cheese.